Hi, Elle. So we're about to start your private channeling session. I've reviewed your questions several times over the last few days, including just literally a couple of minutes ago. I've just come out of a meditation, which was dedicated to this reading, and there's a lot coming through. So I think there's going to be some answers for you. So just to reiterate, you are experiencing isolation in your family because you have sort of diametrically opposed ideas to your family. The way that I perceive it is that you are much more awake than they are. And so they are still believing in the narrative and you've been able to see through it. Yet as the narrative is teaching them, they see you as being dangerous and crazy. So, of course, I have experienced that as well. And anyone who is awake and surrounded by people who aren't have also experienced it. But from what you described to me, it's certainly much more prevalent in your experience than it is in mine. Because you are much more isolated. So, let's begin. Greetings, Elle, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to assist you in the ways that you desire, and also to bring to you the wisdoms and understandings which are at the precipice of coming into your awareness, and all they required was a means or a conduit. So we will provide that service of bringing to you that which you have drawn from your own well, yet lacked only the method through which it could make it into your consciousness. So, the situation you find yourself in now, and also this thematic propensity that you have experienced over your life, is anchored very deeply into your childhood. And so we would like to begin there. You are the oldest of 7 children. And this means in the beginning you had your parents' total and undivided attention. And the transition you experience from this initial condition is in a very large way responsible for this impact you are experiencing in your life now of being isolated, of lacking a sense of worth, of feeling that those around you that are important to you do not see value in you or value in a relationship with you. Let us explain how this is so. When you were the only child, you had an abundance of love and attention from your parents. And so this was the norm by which you valued yourself. It was the acorn from which grew your sense of self-worth. However, following this initial period, your parents continued to have successive children until eventually there were 7 of you in total. And each time a new child came into the family, your degree of love and attention coming from your parents seemed, through the perspective of the child which you were, to be diminishing. And as such, the diminishment of your self-worth did take a parallel trajectory. So, the most important relationships in your life at this time were, of course, your parents, because they were the only relationships you had. And as each successive sibling came into the family, the attention you received from your parents was diminishing, and this was taken on as a form of rejection, a form of isolation, and coupled with the diminishing sense of self-worth, it created a thematic paradigm which you have then carried through to your adult life. And although this has been a recurrent theme, and recurrent because this is the perfection of your experience, everything which comes into your life that you experience is a perfect moment for you to further awaken into who you actually are. And if you do not get it, and you are not able to extract, you don't have the awareness, the consciousness, the state of enlightenment to draw the wisdom from that experience, then it must come to you again in some form. Because it is essential that you draw that meaning from your experience such that it can be resolved and you can then take on new experience for new understanding, for new expansion. So, when you look back at your life and you can see that there is this pattern, this perpetuating cycle, theme, which spans many decades, then this is meaning to you. What to take from it is that there is something important in this, and I have not got it, and that is why I continue to experience it. So it is not that you have been forsaken, or it is not because the perceptions you have are true in regard to your sense of self-worth, your sense of value. So, the way to wisely interpret the current state of your life is to look at the theme, find the cause, and then take specific steps to resolve the cause. So, we want you to understand that you have become isolated in your family because this is what you have co-manifested with those around you, with your family. And so it is your manifestation rather than a form of victimization or a form of unjust, undeserved forsakenness. We are saying this because we want you to internalize it. We want you to own it. We want you to understand that it's part of you. So your experience is reflecting back to you your state of beingness. So it is your manifestation, and even more than that, it is you. From the perspective of the higher self, the avatar and the life that he's living are the same substance. It is the substance of the experience of the higher self. And so, in this expanded perspective, there is really no demarcation between the avatar and the life it is living. It is all the same substance. So, when that perspective is integrated, then you can see that your life is you. And if it is you, then you must take responsibility for all of it. So, taking this position, this perspective, it will lift you from the place of disempowerment you feel that you're at now into a place of greater authority about your life. Understand that it is the perfection, that it is this way. And it is manifesting because that is what you are manifesting. You are the central authority of your life. And as such, you have the power to reshape what it is that you experience. So, let us address how this can be done. So, the beginning place is to redefine the childhood experiences. So, trace back your memory to your early childhood and to see if you can find that sense of being isolated, that sense of not being valued, that sense of lacking self-worth that you feel now in your current life. Going back, see when was the first time you had that experience. So the way that this can be done is think of when was the last, most recent occasion that you had some sense of isolation, of lacking self-worth, of feeling that you are in this state of inner pain, which has motivated you to reach out to us. Become familiar with that feeling. And then we would like you to go back to the previous time prior to that one, where you also felt it with some degree of potency. Now we would like you to go back to a period which was perhaps 5 years prior to that. And then perhaps 15 years, 20 years prior to that. Look for the prominent moments in your experience where you have had that feeling that you weren't valued by those that you valued. Continue this process until you can arrive at the moment that you feel was the original moment. If you cannot specifically see that moment, it does not matter. If you can feel there is a general sense, that's all you need. A general sense of the existence of that moment. Because quite likely it occurred at a time when you were so young, those memories are not active, but exist subconsciously. So, if you feel that you cannot go back that far, it is not important. It is conceptual. Go back until you feel conceptually you have arrived at the place where that original sensation, feeling of isolation, of being less valued than you had before, was initiated. And redefine. Look into the eyes of the young child that you were and help them to understand that this was not a circumstance which had arisen because you did not have value, because you had diminishing worth, but instead was literally a condition of logistics. It was just a practical matter. It did not have that type of meaning. Your parents had more dependence, and so it was essential that they give some of the love and attention they had given to you to those children, to your siblings, so they also could be part of the love paradigm, which until then had been exclusively yours. Help that child to understand they are still loved. They are still worthy. They still have value. There is no relationship between the diminishing attention and your value. Also, your father wishes you to know that he feels a sense of remorse that was your experience. He was completely unaware that you were perceiving it that way. He always had a deep love for you. Although perhaps at times he struggled to be demonstrative, you were always his first child. And so always he felt a relationship with you which was unique as compared to his other children, because he recalls there was the time when it was only you. You were the literal beating heart of that initial nuclear family. And that sense of specialness he had about his relationship with you never diminished, although his attention did. And also, he did not really communicate to you these ideas and feelings, and sees now that he wishes he had. But as a young man from that era, following traditional values, it just was not part of his understanding of life, of parenting, of being a father of a growing family. So, it is his strong desire that you reach a place of peace in regard to this. He's conveying to us now a very deep and strong sense of love. And He says he is always available to you. If at any time you feel isolated or unworthy or lacking in value, that he is there with you to provide all and more that you need. So, we thank your Father for his visitation, and he has decided that he will like to stay and says, please move on. And he would like to remain as an observer and perhaps offer some insight when it is pertinent. So we shall move forward. Okay. Secondary to being the oldest child, which has manifested as it has because of this original character, the personality or the nature of the character that you brought with you into this incarnation, based on experiences you've had in past incarnations, is a generous type of character. So when you had this experience of the diminishing attention and love from your parents as you perceived it, each time a new sibling came into the family, you were in a way also giving your share away. So it was a form of generosity. You did not fight it, but instead you felt a sense of duty to give of yourself to each new member of this growing family, of your siblings. And so this became many, many years of giving of yourself unto them. And this secondary effect, which has remained as an echo in your life, is this selflessness to a fault. You will put yourself at the end of the line rather than allowing yourself to give yourself a degree of attention and priority because you perceive that as selfishness. So, it has been your tendency throughout your life to be selfless to a fault. So this, coupled with the primary effect of manifesting isolation, has created this painful situation where it appears to be no way out, because the way out is selfishness. And this is an important understanding for you to take into yourself, to start being less selfless and more selfish. And when we say selfish, it isn't actually selfish. It is literally just giving yourself more priority. For the world to value you, for the world to see your worth, it first must be the worth you see in yourself. So, to see worth in yourself, to see value in yourself, will shift the way that you live your life. And the shift is that you make yourself more of a priority. And making yourself more of a priority through the lens of the paradigm of how you see yourself now, how you live your life, all arising from these childhood experiences, for you is selfishness. If I were to prioritize myself more, I am being selfish. And this is not who I am. Selfishness is not a good quality. As you can imagine, when you were a child and you had expectations equal to when you were the only child, they would have been perceived by your parents as selfishness. You're being selfish. Can't you see there are others besides yourself? Yet you weren't being selfish, you were just still existing in the old paradigm. You had not yet absorbed the understanding of what it means to be in a family where there is not only you. So, you absorb that to mean to ask for priority, to ask for attention, to give to oneself instead of to others is unwanted behavior. It is selfishness. And the desired behavior is to be selfless. Of course, you could see this paradigm would have existed because when you selflessly gave of your time and energy to assist your parents in the raising of your younger siblings, this would have been perceived by them as very favorable behavior. So you were rewarded with that you desired from your parents, which was love and attention, praise, when you were selfless. And yet you were admonished when you were selfish. So, this is the echo that has continued through your life, and you are living it now, still. When you stand on your values and say, I will not receive the inoculation, I will not believe the lies coming from the mainstream. This is you holding to your values. Yet, for your family, it is perceived as selfishness. You are prioritizing yourself. It is being perceived as selfishness. This is the same paradigm. It's of the repeating pattern. So, now that we have traced back, and this is an exercise that we recommend you do in private often, to go back to find that early childhood experience where you first had the sense of isolation, of diminishing self-worth, and so on, and redefine it. And then once you have started to integrate these new definitions, then it's time to start redefining your current experience using these new understandings, these new definitions. So, your family isolating you and perceiving you as a medical threat and crazy in a way. This is not related in truth to your self-worth, because you are a child of your Creator. You are an individuation of the One. You are so worthy that the One decided to create you such that it could experience itself through you, for fulfilling the divine purpose of knowing itself experientially. This is how worthy you are. And until you have fully awakened after the cycle of endless incarnations to the realization that you are the One and coalesced back into that identity, then the One's purpose will not have been fulfilled. You are that essential. So, clearly, you are worthy, yet you hold beliefs that you are not. These beliefs are untrue. So, redefining your current experience. It isn't a tragedy. It isn't a travesty. It's an opportunity. It is inevitable that the global consciousness is going to awaken. And so this means that the time is coming when those within your family that have isolated you are also going to be awakened. There is no guarantee all of them will, but certainly many of them will. So, that is not something you need to be concerned with. Instead, it is time in your life to focus on yourself, to make you the priority. And you can see you have manifested the perfect opportunity. It is the perfect opportunity because your family do not wish to have interaction with you. So you have this space. You have this bubble of opportunity, which they are respectfully holding in place by not calling on you to give of yourself, by not placing demands on you. They are, although unconsciously, holding the space open for you. So for the first time, you can be selfish and start making yourself the priority. So, what is it you want to do? What is it you want to pursue? How do you want to develop? In which ways do you want to expand? These are important considerations. Use the opportunity while it exists before the bubble pops and your family awaken, realize the errors and integrate you back into their family, and then place the demands on you again of being the familial matriarch, which eventually you will become. So this is the special moment. Use it. See it as a blessing. Redefine it as a gift. This is the gift that your soul group is holding open for you at this time. It is not the first iteration of coinciding incarnations that you're experiencing with your family. Those ones important to you have been important to you before. And they understand from this higher perspective that each of you has an objective or objectives to accomplish in this lifetime. They know for you, in agreement, that you have this repeating cycle of being selfless to a fault, of living each incarnation where you focus so much on those around you, you live externally. And as you live externally, the degree to which you could grow is minimized. It is not fully utilized because your focus is rarely on oneself. And so, they are intuitively guided, although they are unaware, to create the conditions where you are isolated to the degree where now you have an open space of opportunities. There is no one calling on you, there's no one demanding anything of you. So it's your time. It's your time to grow, to self-investigate, to expand, to realize, for epiphany, realization. So, it is also time to become more connected to your higher self. And this can only occur when you turn your gaze internally, but not through the lens of suffering. Why have I been forsaken? Why do I have no value? Why do my family treat me this way? Not that form of introspection. Instead, who am I? What is my relationship with the One? What is my relationship with the humanity being? What is my relationship with the higher self? How do I shift my perspective from the avatar into the higher self, which is truly me? You are the higher self, having a physical experience. So, for you to become more expanded into that higher perspective, then it is essential that these smaller neuroses of the avatar, which arise from the mind, be let go. Become less and less part of the machinations, the inner dialogue, so that the peacefulness and presence of the higher self can begin to fill the space. So, we see it as absolutely essential that you begin doing regular practice of mind quietening, where the landscape occurring internally is completely silent. The easiest form for this is going to be meditation. And it is during these meditations that we wish you to be in a mindscape of silence, yet have awareness that you are there. This is literal higher self-awareness. This is the higher self-awareness being your presence. You asked, was it part of your soul contract that you would not connect to your higher self? We want you to understand this is an erroneous question, because you are the higher self, yet you identify so centrally in the mind that there appears to be demarcation, where the higher self is something entirely different. But in fact, you are the higher self. You are not the mind. The mind is just the computation device. And yet it has a degree of autonomy that it has the capacity to assume it is the identity. It is, as we have said, an organic artificial intelligence. But all you need to do is switch it off, and the moment it switches off, you are there as the true essence of who you are. So connecting to the higher self is not some form of shamanism or expert level guru methodology. It is as simple as quietening the mind. This is why your reality in your societies are so frenetically paced, with so much input and entertainment options and advertising, everything coming from all directions. Because those who engineer this construct understand that your wisdom and strength lay in the true essence of who you are, which is the higher self, the deep reservoir of wisdom and knowing, which is inherent to that aspect. And it is your source of power. So that connection must be interfered, jammed, such that you exist almost entirely in your mind, which as a whole weakens humanity, makes it much more malleable, directable, deceivable, and so on. So, your higher self is there because it is you. And connecting with it is not an illustrious power. And we wish to really emphasize this, because as long as you believe that you must achieve some level of guru expertise before it is possible for you, then the more you are going to keep yourself separated from it. But the reality is, it is such a fundamental, primal practice to silence the mind that it is very deeply intrinsic to being a human being. There are few things, if any, which are more natural, more organic than allowing the higher self to be your presence. For the very earliest humans, prior to the development of complex languages, these beings were very much present as the higher self. So, it is primal. It's a primal state. And built into the hardware of the avatar, waiting and willing to be utilized. And it is your higher self desire as in it is your desire, that you utilize it often, such that you can begin absorbing into the mental state the intuitions and the wisdoms of the higher self, of the true you. So, let us next address this question you had about, should I leave and then just live alone? We say no, because this is just the perpetuating of this manifestation of isolation, where you are creating the isolation, or rather you are manifesting the isolation. And we differentiate that point because you and all aspects of the all are beings of manifestation, not creation. That is a topic of depth for perhaps another time. So, if you were to move out and live alone, can you see this is just the next repetition of the pattern? And each time you do not get it, each time you do not absorb into you the understanding, then the way in which the pattern comes back into your life will be increased in amplitude, because the amplitude at which you last received it wasn't sufficient to awaken you. Therefore, when it comes back again, it must be of a higher amplitude, a greater potency, such that it increases the chances that you will get it. So, rather than going to that extent where you live by yourself and experience a sense of isolation and loneliness, which is even more profound than you experience now, we say instead, stay where you are and start living more focused on yourself. Prioritize yourself. Start developing a relationship with your higher self, introspecting, and assist this, enhance this by seeking out relationships with other people who are like-minded in terms of wakefulness, and therefore in terms of values. Those that also understand it is unwise to get the inoculation. Those who also understand that the narrative is lying. Those that also understand there is much more than just the physical realm. Seek out these people. And so, this way you can exploit the bubble of opportunity which has been provided to you by your family, who are in agreement, providing this opportunity from an intuitive yet unconscious motivation arising from the higher self, based on agreements that you have brought with you into this current cycle of incarnations with your soul group. So it's important you understand you have not been forsaken by your family. Although they are lost in the identity of the avatar, they are still, to a degree, guided by the intuition of the higher self, operating on these agreements you all have with each other. So, for example, some of your children have been over-reliant on the matriarchal influence of of their lives in previous incarnations. And they were unable to untether themselves and step into a full maturity of adulthood because throughout their life they were such a devoted child to their mother that they did not truly develop their own sense of self and ideals. So, what you have agreed to provide them in this lifetime is to be so diametrically opposed in your values and ideas that they are able to emancipate themselves from the prominent matriarch of their life and develop into a greater sense of maturity as an independent identity. This is part of the contractual agreement you have made with them. You are playing your role also intuitively guided from the higher self. It is not tragedy. It is not travesty. It is playing with the illusion. This context of the physical reality which has been provided to you to serve the purpose of discovering who you are, of knowing yourself experientially. It's the playground. This is the stuff with which you have been blessed to make these discoveries. The true essence of who you are is puppeteering the show, as it is for your family. So, less seriousness is deserved than you give it. It is just the illusory context to fulfill the greater purpose, the divine purpose. And you are puppeteering the avatar that you mistakenly believe is you. So, place less investment of the identity in how they behave to you, because the amount that you give it is very unbalanced to what it actually is. Because really, from the highest perspective, it is indifference. There is nothing personal about it at all, other than a deep love for everything, and therefore a strong desire to serve any way they can for your fulfillment of divine purpose. So if that is what you require, to be isolated, to be lonely, to have this experience which you must overcome, then with great love they wish to give it to you. So, we would say you are unskilled at being selfish. Being selfish is not something that comes easy to you. And you will struggle with it. Your tendency will be to stop yourself from doing what it is that you have mentally decided you should do, because this would prioritize yourself. But then when it comes to do it, you will feel a sense of incongruency. A sense of, I don't think this is right. So, we feel that if you reach out and make these friendships, you are going to meet someone another woman who used to be like you. She used to be selfless to a fault. And then she was able to make the shift and step into her own. And now she's righteously selfish. And we say righteously selfish because it is not abhorrent behavior. She's not selfish to the point of hurting other people. She is just living in the glory of who she is. She's drinking from the cup of herself, as you deserve to as well. And she will be able to show you, model for you how it can be done. And you will see with your own eyes how invigorated and alive she is, filled with her own power, seemingly needing no other external validation. And you will be impressed. You will be in awe of this completely new paradigm of how to exist. And she not only does she live in this way, where she's fully in the glory of herself, but from what you can observe, she is able to do this while maintaining virtue. There is nothing unkind or evil or anything about her living in this way. It is possible. I can see. It is possible to live in a way which prior I said would be a selfish way to live. But in fact, it is not. In fact, it is a blessing to all those who know you when you live this way, as it is to me. Because from this relationship, I love myself more. I understand myself more. I enjoy being me more. I'm enjoying my life more. So, this will be the female energy that you will receive. So, we cannot see clearly if it is one woman or perhaps a collage, a energetic collage of a group of women that you encounter. But what is important is the net effect. The net effect will be for you to have this new perspective, and it will make it much easier for you to make this transition from being selfless to a fault to living in a way which is completely righteous, drinking from the cup of self, yet being able to do so without any guilt and feeling that you are being undeservedly selfish. Finally, if you are able to make these transitions and these new definitions and living in these new ways and having these new friendships and redefining really so much of your life, not just now, but going backwards. It is all entirely possible, and it is not as difficult as it may sound. It is easily something that you have within you to accomplish. And this will be intrinsic to your preparation for ascension. Because as long as you entertain any feelings which are unpleasant, such as the sense of rejection, the sense of isolation, the sense of loneliness that you draw from the circumstances of your life now, then you are making it much more difficult for yourself to elevate your vibration so it is above this threshold where those above the threshold are incorporated into the ascension event, and those below are buffeted out simply through having incompatible metaphysics, incompatible energetics with the ascension event. So, the more joyful you are about being you, the more happy you are about the life that you're living, the more at peace you are with the circumstances that you see about you. And the more you are able to love the world, love yourself, regardless of how it presents, then the more likely you are going to find yourself above the threshold in preparation for ascension. So it is all interconnected, and it makes complete sense that your likelihood of being compatible with the ascension correlates very closely to your own healing. Because until you are healed, you are not existing as the organic form. Your energies are injured. And so if you can heal the injury, then you will revert to the default state of what you actually are. And the default state of what you actually are is a being which is completely energetically compatible with the ascension. So, in regard to this question, as you have asked it, we would say, rather than do things which are specifically for the ascension, we would say instead, focus the attention on yourself to bring this new understanding integrated into your identity such that there is healing. And from that arising the new belief systems, the new definitions, and living in a completely different way. As a being embodying the glory of self. Arising from within, rather than scavenging for the scraps, for the external validation of wealth and value, which is this childhood paradigm replaying throughout your life. That is an old paradigm, it's time to let it go. And use this bubble of opportunity which has been lovingly given to you by the rest of your soul group to start living selfishly as you would define it with the old lens, and draw the power from within. Start living the glory of self. And very naturally consequential to that will be your preparation for ascension. Once you get over that hump and you can start living in this way, then it would be more pertinent to start being exclusively focused, in a way, on preparing for ascension. So, let us finish in this way. Connecting with the higher self isn't necessarily some type of connective experience which is so tangible that it is like tap on the shoulder or words spoken directly into your mind. So as long as you look for that type of tangibility, you are going to hold at bay something which is literally right there. There is not a connection which is made, it is literally right there. Because you can't exist as the avatar without the connection with the higher self. It's just not possible. So you are downloading the higher self into the avatar at all times. So you are connected to the point that if the connection was ever broken, the avatar would cease to exist. So, all you have to do is clear the clutter away so the eternally present higher self can be perceived. And the clutter, of course, we are speaking about the mind. You must quieten the mind. So, become a regular practitioner of meditation, and this is going to be your opportunity to spend time where your presence is entirely occupied by the true essence of who you are. The being of unity, love and light. And much of these things we have spoken about will come with greater ease if you become a regular practitioner. So, don't be lazy about that. If this is really this important to you, if you are really struggling to be living in this situation at this point in your life, then make the effort to do what you know is going to be helpful. And to clarify, this is coming directly from your higher self. Your higher self is saying right now, make space for me. I am here. This is who you are. And who you are is a being robustly energetic and loving and vital and alive, and at total and utter peace. But it is being occluded by the mind and your identity in it. So, go into meditation and commune with this higher aspect of yourself. Become yourself. Fill the space with the presence of who you truly are. And that will be the beginning of your transformation. So, we love you. And we give thanks for this opportunity to be here with you. And before we go, your Father is also saying, don't forget, I'm here also. And he wishes to say that it has been his pleasure to be here as part of this and to live through some of these memories from your perspective. And he now understands you with much greater clarity. He wishes you love and respect and re-emphasizes his apology that he did not perceive with greater clarity when he was your father, and that he will always be here, as in where you are, the moment that you need him, to give to you that which he didn't have the awareness to give when he was physically with you. And the last farewell is from your higher self. It wishes to say, start living aligned with how the device was intended to be utilized. And if you do this, then very naturally, organically, by default, you will begin to step into a healthier version of yourself. It cannot be any other way. It is simple. Thank you, and we love you.